disobedience. They're pretending they don't know the regulation, which is a guts play, because Medicare is not just about paying you, you see, it's about deciding whether you can stay open as a hospital. And if they find out you willfully violated Medicare rules, you can actually get shut down. So, but I give them kudos for principled stance. So that's quality. What's it done to cost? Well, was $220, now add a $3,000 to $4,000 of your tax dollars money to hauling you around in this ambulance. So we've more than 10 times the cost of the test done with this one little regulation. But here's the real kicker, because what do you always hear from these guys in DC? We got to get access to people, get them into the healthcare system. What does it do to access? Now clearly our Medicare patients are hosed. They can't get this test done in our hospital. But how about you that might have private insurance? Or let's just say, figuratively, Bill Gates is wandering through the wilds of Iowa and stumbles into my emergency room and has a swollen leg. And he says, no, don't send me anywhere. I'll pay you cash for this study and I'll donate $1 million to upgrade your emergency room. And we have to say, sorry, Bill, not only can we not do you for cash, we can't do these people for their insurance that they've already paid into to perceptively get this test. We can't do the uninsured, the people that they purport to care about, because all that would be discriminatory against Medicare patients. Okay? That's what government gives you when they get involved in these things. It's horrendous. Now you might say this is just one example, but unfortunately, come and spend time in my clinic and you'll find it's all day long. It's all day long. In fact, I have a pen I brought with me that was given to me by another doctor that just happened to make a pen like the pen I made that has, our motto is mediocrity in medicine since 2012. It had to do with electronic medical records. But it's all day long that we're being pinged like this. And of course, this is what started. If anybody thinks this started with Obamacare, it did not. It started in 1964 with the advent of Medicare. And that has it's just become this monster program that's sucking the lifeblood out of American citizens. And it has over 140,000 pages of regulation. Now, think about that. The tax code of America is 72,000 pages, or counting some long, okay? Ask your attorney, do you understand the tax code? And he's going to say, oh, no, I got to have a tax attorney. But your pediatrician, your family practitioner, your orthopedic surgeon, we're all supposed to be completely in line with this and understand it, or we can go to jail or lose our life savings. How does this get you to really want to practice medicine, right? In fact, my friend, this is Larry Huntoon, who's a neurologist from upstate New York, and he has 2 stacks that he keeps. One is called Big Frank. That's the 140-some thousand pages and constantly growing of the regulations. This actually is just Little Frank, which is the letters that he's, as in Little Frankenstein, the letters he's written back and forth to Medicare over the years trying to help his patients, so it's pretty funny. Now, of course, regulations don't mean anything unless you put teeth into them. And we now, I'm just telling you this in case it happens to your physician, because I don't want you to feel bad about him. I don't want you to think he's a criminal. You have to put teeth in your regulations, and you may have heard the government's running out of money, and they looked around and they said, where's the money going? Oh, we paid it to doctors and hospitals. Here's an answer for saving. Let's just go get the money back from them. So they hired these people called the RAC. It kind of sounds like the Spanish Inquisition, or at least the Monty Python version of the Spanish Inquisition. No one expects the Spanish Inquisition. Well, doctors don't expect to be drug out of their office at gunpoint with federal agents who are there to recover what they call Medicare fraud. I used to think Medicare fraud was the government selling fake wheelchairs to fake patients, but really what it is now, it's not using the correct code out of that big long stack of paperwork. We're rapidly expanding from 17,000 codes for procedures to 70,000, and nobody can keep up with it, but we can be prosecuted for it. And here's the kind of nightmarish maze it is. If I take out a tumor from your arm and I code it as a benign growth, and it comes back from the pathologist as cancer, I've committed Medicare fraud. But if I hedge my bets and I send it off as cancer and it comes back benign, I've committed Medicare fraud. So it's not about being right or wrong, it's about whether they want to get you or not. And so, and then there's the qui tam laws that, see, these RAC auditors, they don't make money from the government, they only make money by taking back your assets, either from hospitals and doctors. And you just have to ask yourself how that's going to make a bed available for you when you need it. This is not the answer. Really, this is just a nightmare scenario we've got ourselves into. I looked at the top 11 rule-producing agencies in 2011, right? And here are the 5 top agencies that produced regulations. We grow the federal. The Constitution was 9 pages. Our entire, if you typed it up today, I think it's 9 or 11 pages. That was entire federal laws. Now we have 54 feet thick federal registry filled with laws that you have to abide by. And so I kind of wanted to know where medicine fit in that. Turns out the people that produce the most of these rules are Treasury, Commerce, Interior, EPA, and Agriculture. So that last year they produced 1,733 regulations. If you look at rules completed that had more than $100 million impact on the economy, look who's number one. H&HS. We completed the Health and Human Services passed 23 regulations with over $100 million impact on the economy. Okay, there was nobody else even close. Look at the Board of Defense did nothing. They weren't even playing the game. But the EPA was the next with number 4. I'm sure the farmers here know about that. Now, here's one way that government makes you less healthy. It's the FDA. I know, it's Food and Drug Association. It's supposed to make you more healthy, right? It's supposed to protect your drugs. But the problem is, it completely has gotten out of control. The incentive for an FDA regulator is to never pass a drug, because his incentive is he wants to not be in front of Congress explaining why he passed a bad drug, and he wants to keep his funding stream going. Those are really his motivations. It's not to get you a better cardiac drug. And so the easiest way never to make a mistake is to never do anything. There was a 10-year period the FDA did not pass one new cardiac drug, and we are the world center for pharmaceutical innovation. Not one drug in 10 years. Well, they tried to reform it, but it isn't much better. On average, it takes 15 years to get a drug to market. And my experience dealing with this is that well-meaning physicians paying attention to their patients, we know when something's not right. I figured out Vioxx in 3 weeks, okay, that it was not a good drug. It took the FDA 3 years to finally jerk it off. So the other real problem when you make it so hard to get a drug to market is there is a tendency to lie. And I have seen that also, where a drug company found some problems. Let's say it only takes you, it should take you a year, because it maybe takes you a year to develop this drug, right? If it only takes you a year or two of your big R&D investment, and you find something with a problem with it, you just quickly move into another line. You don't worry about it. You just let that one go and move on. But if it takes you 15 years to get a drug to market, and on year 14 you start seeing problems, then you're more likely to kind of sweep those under the carpet, and that does happen. So, and the FDA, the other problem is that the FDA and OSHA are going in and shutting down factories producing because they're saying we have to bring these drugs up to today's standards. Just like the little meat markets in Iowa are going out of business because they're being told, you know, it's going to cost you $60,000, you have to bring it up to today's standards. Even though nobody's gotten sick from that meat market ever, and nobody's gotten sick from these drugs ever, we now have to bring them up to standards. So the companies are just saying, we're going to close. We went 3 months at a major trauma center where I work. We didn't have tetanus to give to our emergency room patients. This is a sign of socialism when you have shortages of things like that. We have shortages now like I've never seen in 30 years of medicine. Shortages of catheters, shortages of the drugs that we use in the operating room. You know, propofol, the Michael Jackson, everybody knows about propofol from Michael Jackson, but it's a major drug for the OR, and we are really running short. Valium, we were out of at our hospital, not because we didn't order, because there was a national shortage. So that's unfortunately what the FDA gives us. So the next time you hear the FDA saying, we saved 35,000 lives by passing this new hypertensive drug this year, just remember, 35,000 people a year died every year for the 15 years waiting for that drug to market. That's the real story. Because that's kind of, death by omission. Well, my friend, you're going to hear from my other Canadian friend here, but we have a third friend that sometimes comes and speaks with Lee Carisco. Lee Carisco is a radiologist, neuroradiologist, and he's practicing in Minnesota now. But Lee grew up in Canada, and he thought growing up that Canada was the most moral system because it treated everybody. Well, he believed that right up until he was a doctor.